Hi friends, my name is Katya. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be picking a TBR for the month of July. July will be exciting because it is Summerween. If you don't know, Summerween is an annual readathon where people read thriller and horror and generally Halloween-y kinds of books. So today I'm going to be talking to you about my Summerween TBR, but I'm also going to be using a TBR wheel to decide what books to read for the rest of the month. Now, as you probably know, I am a library lover. I am a very loyal public library patron. And so every time I am interested in a book, I will place a hold at my local library and have it delivered to me. But unfortunately, sometimes that results in a lot of books all arriving at the same time, and so I need to prioritize which books I actually need to read and which books can go back to the library for me to borrow at another time. So I've got my stack next to me. These are all of the books that I have checked out from the library. Oh, I missed one. These are all of the books that I have checked out from the library right now that I need to decide which to read first. Now, some people have asked me in the past, like, why do you check out so many books at once? Are you going to read all of those? The answer is no, I am not going to read all of these, but I will always check a book out over not checking a book out because I know I can always return it. Just because you check a book out from the library does not mean that you are signing a contract that you have to read that book. And circulation in general helps libraries. By checking a book out, you are supporting your local library. So this is me expressing my gratitude for libraries and my PSA that if you have one available to you, if you are lucky enough to live near a public library, that you should be checking your books out instead of buying them all the time. Not that there's anything wrong with book buying, but I just think it's more important now than ever to be supporting your libraries. But back to the point of the video, I have put all of these books into a TBR wheel spinner. I'm going to spin the wheel and I'm going to use the wheel to help me decide which of these books to read. I'm sure there are lots of people who do TBR wheel spinners, but my favorite person who does TBR wheels every month is Olivia Reed, so thank you so much for the inspiration. So going through the TBR wheel of library books, we have Mile High by Liz Tomford, The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson, Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wong, Wild Side by Elsie Silver, Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, An Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love by India Holton, Fire by Kristen Kishore, Next Best Fling by Gabriela Gomez, Beautyland, The Will of the Many, Intermezzo, and finally Scott and Bother. So I'm going to spin the wheel and I'm going to pick 4 of these that I'm really going to prioritize this month, and then we will get into my separate Summerween TBR. My laptop's over here if that was not clear. So we are going to spin that wheel. Okay, we have a romance. Now, this is a book that I had never heard of before. I just saw it on the new shelf at my library while I was browsing in person. This is about a librarian named Marcella who has been secretly in love with her best friend for years. This best friend gets engaged, and so Marcella realizes that maybe it is time to move on. However, when she attends the engagement party, she finds out that she's not the only one who is unrequitedly in love with someone in this couple. Marcella is in love with her best friend, the groom, but the groom's brother is in love with the bride. So Marcella and Theo, this brother, end up fake dating one another during the course of all of these wedding festivities in an effort to not look quite as pathetic for being in love with the people in this couple. And soon they're doing real couple things like flirting in the library aisles and exploring their simmering chemistry between the sheets. But are they actually moving on, or is this too much of a good fling? This just seems very cute, very fun. Fake dating is one of my very favorite romance tropes, so definitely excited to get to this month. Okay, next TBR wheel pick. I'm hoping this time for something that is not romance because I want some variety in my month, but we will see. Ooh, okay. The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. This is a labyrinth of a book, vast and intricate, full of fiendish twists and clever traps, with a deeply human heart at its center. It's thrilling, romantic, often tragic, and always funny. I'm obsessed. That is a blurb from Alex E. Harrow. But this is a chunky epic fantasy book that I've only heard really amazing things about. Our setting is the Empire of Oran, where after 24 years of peace, the reign of Burson the Brusque has come to an end. In the dizzying heat of summer, so this is a very good time to be reading this book, there are 7 exceptional warriors, thinkers, and strategists who are competing to be the next ruler. However, one of them is mysteriously murdered, and it falls to Nima, the brilliant high scholar, to find the killer and fight for the throne. So this obviously has a lot of fantasy elements, but also some murder mystery elements, lots of political intrigue, and I'm very, very excited and interested to read this. I'm hoping for a very immersive fantasy world, lots of layered, flawed characters, and exciting twists and reveals. All right, book number 3. Beautyland. All right, we've got lots of variety in terms of genres right now. This is sci-fi. We follow a kind of alien. Her name is Adina, and as a child, she already recognizes that she is different because she possesses knowledge of a faraway planet. The arrival of a fax machine enables this child to contact her extraterrestrial relatives, beings who had sent her to Earth to report on the oddities of Earthlings. For years, she moves through the world and makes a life for herself among humans, and dispatches transmissions on the terrors and surprising joys of their existence. Then, at a precarious moment, a beloved friend urges Adina to share her messages to the world. Is there a chance she's not alone? It says Beautyland is a novel of startling originality about the fragility and resilience of our life on Earth and in our universe. It is a remarkable evocation of the feeling of being in exile at home, and it introduces a gentle, unforgettable alien for our times. I get the feeling that this book could have really poignant and beautiful musings on humanity and on the world, seeing it through the fresh eyes of an alien. One of the blurbs says that Adina takes the tired old world and describes it so perfectly that we see it as if for the first time. Sparkling and alive, funny and magnificently true, this book woke me up. It made me weep with appreciation for the hard, strange, small but huge lives we lead. It made me fall back in love with this universe. That makes me so excited to read this. I know that this will be stunning, and reading more about it makes me even more excited that it got picked for this month. Okay, I'm gonna pick one last library book from the TBR spinner, and then I'm going to get into my summerween TBR. Last spin. Okay, Sword of Kaigen. This book follows the Matsuda family, where 14-year-old Mamoru has always known his purpose to master his family's fighting techniques and defend his homeland. However, an outsider arrives, and Mamoru realizes the empire he was born to defend might stand on a foundation of lies. Now, his mother, Mizaki, told herself that she left the passions of her youth behind when she married into the Matsuda house, and she's determined to be a good housewife and mother, so she hid away her sword and her fighting past. But now that there is an invasion on the horizon, she will also have to become a fighter again. M.L. Wong is an author that I've heard so many amazing things about, and I've heard amazing things particularly about this book. I like that it's described as emotionally supercharged, and I like that we follow a mother character. I'm not used to reading about characters who are a little bit older, and so that really appeals to me. Okay, so these are the 4 books that I am prioritizing for the second part of the month. We've got Sword of Kaigen, Beautyland, The Next Best Fling, and The Raven Scholar. I'm very happy with the variety that is present in these books. I mentioned in my mid-year book freakout tag that one of my goals for the year is to really prioritize having lots of variety in terms of genres in my reading life, and I think that this really accomplishes that. But I also have to talk to you about my Summerween TBR. Now, like I mentioned before, Summerween is a readathon that happens every year. Last year was my first time participating, and I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm excited to be participating again. This readathon focuses on thriller and horror and Halloween-y type books, so I'm also including some paranormal fantasy things in my list as well. But the first book I'm planning on reading is Don't Let the Forest In. This is a YA horror focused on nature horror. This book is about high school senior Andrew, who finds refuge in the twisted fairy tales that he writes for the only person who truly understands him, Thomas. Thomas is his best friend, and Thomas makes whimsically macabre sketches of the monsters from Andrew's wicked stories. However, something strange is starting to go on with Thomas. His abusive parents have mysteriously vanished, and he arrives at school with blood on his sleeve. Thomas won't say a word about it, but Andrew is desperate to figure out what's wrong with his friend, so he follows Thomas into the off-limits forest one night, and he catches him fighting a nightmarish monster. It seems that Thomas's drawings have come to life, and they are killing anyone close to him. So to make sure that no one else dies, the boys battle the monsters every night. However, as their obsession with each other grows stronger, so do the monsters, and Andrew begins to fear that the only way to stop the creatures might be to destroy their creator. This has such a delightfully creepy cover and creepy premise that I think makes it a very, very good fit for summerween. Also, since it's YA, I think I should be able to read it pretty quickly. It says Thomas had no idea that Andrew would do anything for him, protect him, lie for him, kill for him. Drama! So excited. On a very different note, I also have The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. This follows our main character Delphi, who just recently died, and while she is in the afterlife waiting room, she meets the one. She and this man start to chat, and she becomes convinced that he was the love of her life and that they just missed each other in real life. And luckily, she ends up being offered a deal in which she can return to Earth and reconnect with this mysterious man. But to find him in a city of millions, Delphi is going to have to listen to her heart, learn to ask for help, and perhaps even see the magic in the life that she's leaving behind. So this character dies and then gets 10 days to come back to life for a second chance at love. I chose this as a part of my summerween TBR because it's like death focused and kind of ghosty, but it's a goofy kind of ghosty. I just think that it seems like a very, very fun, quick rom-com romp. I already am very intrigued by Delphi's personality. The first line is, "This cannot be how I die." It really, really can't. And I just think it'll be funny, and so I'm excited to have this in my TBR as well. Next is a horror. This is called Feast While You Can. It says, "The monster's touch was cold like a wet rock, soft like the sandstone her ancestors had used to build their home, chalky fingertips tucking her damp hair behind her ears, petting at her sore scalp as if it were sorry." In this book, we follow Angelina, who was born and raised in Cadenze, an ugly, remote town with little to its name. Angelina, living in this town, has just a pretty normal life. She walks her dog, she attends her brother's heavy metal concerts, she holds court at the local dive bar, and does everything she can to bait hot queer women to her sleepy conservative hometown. However, one night she meets the sternly handsome Jagvi, and perhaps enticed by their arrival, an ancient evil lying dormant in the caves is awakened, and soon Angelina's small, contained world begins to shatter. As the monstrous force grows bolder, it begins to infiltrate Angelina's life. It finds her in the night, guzzles on her memories, controls her from the inside. Only Jagvi's touch repels it, the final trigger for a secret, passionate romance. But this monster feasts on all the passion, heartbreak, and mess that makes up a life, and Angelina's life has never looked tastier. What will she do to protect her future, and what will it cost her? This book just sounds so dramatic and so scary and so messy. I'm interested to see how straightforward this is and how much of it is more symbolism and metaphor, but it is again a shorter book and one that I should be able to read pretty quickly as long as it does not freak me out too much. On a bit of a different note, this is more sci-fi than anything else. I don't get the impression that it's really thriller or horror, but I think just the concepts of a woman being controlled are horrifying enough. And so that brings us to Anniebot. This book follows Anniebot, who is a robot designed specifically to be the girlfriend and partner of a man named Doug. She is designed to satisfy his emotional and physical needs. She has dinner ready for him every night, wears the cute outfits he orders for her, and adjusts her libido to suit his moods. True, she's not the greatest at keeping Doug's place spotless, but she's trying to please him. She's trying hard, and she's learning too. Doug says that he loves Annie's artificial intelligence and that it makes her seem more like a real woman. But the more human Annie becomes, the less perfectly she behaves. As Annie's relationship with Doug grows more intricate and difficult, she starts to wonder, does Doug really desire what he says he wants? And in such an impossible paradox, what does Annie owe herself? The flap here says that this book is an explosive meditation on intimacy, power, autonomy, and control. So I know that this is going to be incredibly fascinating and thought-provoking, and I have a really good feeling that this could be a 5-star new favorite. I know that it will be a very quick read as well because it is quite short, but sometimes short books are the ones that pack the most punch. All right, last but not least, my final book for my summerween TBR and my entire July TBR is going to be Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. This is a book about hunger, love, and rage. We follow 3 young women on 3 very different timelines. So we follow a character in 15th 1832, in 1827, and in 2019. These are 3 young women, their bodies planted in the same soil, their stories tangling like roots. One grows high, one grows deep, and one grows wild, and all of them grow teeth. I've enjoyed V.E. Schwab's writing in the past, and this in particular just seems so delightfully lovely and creepy. I think I've heard that there are vampires involved, although I'm nervous to know too much going in because I think the mysterious nature of this is part of what appeals to me so much. So if I'm completely wrong and this isn't like dark fantasy involving vampires at all, then I guess I'm wrong, but that's what I'm hoping for and that's what I'm expecting. So that brings us to the end of this video as a review, my full TBR for the month of July. It's pretty big this month. I have Annie Bot by Sierra Greer, Feast While You Can, Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, The Love of My Afterlife, Don't Let the Forest In, The Sword of Kaigan, Beautyland, The Next Best Fling, and The Raven Scholar. I would love to know down in the comments below if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts were on them. Also, I would really like to know one book from your July TBR. What is something that you were excited to read this month? If you're reading any of these books too, that would be so fun that we're reading it at the same time. But yes, thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me as I picked out the books that I'm going to read in July. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell to be notified of the next time I post, and I will see you in my next video.